He never fired a weapon, he never commanded a single soldier, but military historians agree, without him, the Second World War would have lasted at least 2 more years. 14 million more people would have died. He cracked the unbreakable code. He invented the machine that became the computer. He asked whether a machine could think decades before anyone else dared to. And when the war was over, the country he had saved arrested him, convicted him, chemically mutilated him, and then watched in silence as he died alone at 41. This is Alan Turing, and this is what they did to him. Alan Turing was born in London in 1912 into a family that kept moving. His father worked in India, and Alan grew up mostly in the care of English strangers, often lonely, always curious. At school, his teachers recognized something unusual in him, though they weren't quite sure what to do with it. He solved mathematics problems using methods no one had taught him. He was thinking in a language his classrooms hadn't invented yet. At 16, a close friendship with a fellow student named Christopher Morcom changed everything. Christopher inspired Turing to push harder, think deeper, chase bigger ideas. When Christopher died suddenly of tuberculosis, Turing channeled that grief into the only language he knew: mathematics. He went to Cambridge, excelled quietly, and then in 1936, at just 24 years old, published a paper that redefined what a machine could theoretically do. He described a device that could simulate any calculation, given the right instructions. It didn't exist yet, but it would. And when it did, we'd call it a computer. In September 1939, the day after Britain declared war on Germany, Turing reported for duty at a country estate in Buckinghamshire called Bletchley Park. The Germans had a device, a machine called Enigma. It replaced every letter in a message with a random substitute, cycling through a series of internal rotors and a plug board. The number of possible combinations exceeded 100 quintillion, and the Germans reset it every single day at midnight. Polish mathematicians had cracked an earlier version and shared what they knew with the British. But the war had made Enigma exponentially harder. No human team working by hand could keep up. Turing understood this immediately. The only way to fight a machine was with a machine. He built what became known as the bomb bay, an electromechanical device that ran through configurations at inhuman speed, eliminating impossible settings until only the plausible ones remained. It wasn't brute force, it was logic, compressed into rotating drums and electrical circuits. By 1943, the bombs at Bletchley were cracking 84,000 Enigma messages every single month. 2 messages every minute. But Turing's most critical contribution wasn't the Air Force codes or the Army signals. It was the Atlantic. German U-boats were hunting Allied supply convoys in wolf packs, and they were winning. Churchill himself later admitted it was the only thing that truly frightened him during the war. Turing personally led the team that cracked naval Enigma, allowing Allied convoys to be rerouted away from submarine positions across the vast, dark ocean. Historians estimate his work saved the lives of over 14 million people and shortened the war by at least 2 years. None of this could be spoken of publicly. Bletchley Park was classified. Turing went home with no medals, no ceremony, no acknowledgement. Just silence. After the war, Turing continued. He worked on early computers at Manchester, published foundational ideas about artificial intelligence, and asked a question that still echoes today. Can a machine think? He was living a quiet, productive life. He was also privately a gay man. In post-war Britain, that was a criminal offense. In 1952, police arrived at his home, not because he'd harmed anyone, but because he'd had a relationship with a man. He was charged under a Victorian-era law, the same law that had imprisoned Oscar Wilde more than 50 years earlier. Turing didn't deny it. He saw nothing wrong with who he was. The court gave him a choice: prison or a course of hormone injections designed to eliminate his sexual drive. He chose the injections, hoping to continue his research. What followed was a slow, quiet collapse. His body changed in ways he hadn't been prepared for. His concentration fractured. The man who had once held the architecture of the entire Nazi encryption network inside his head was struggling to think clearly. His security clearance was revoked. The government that had relied on him to save the nation now monitored him as a potential threat. The reasoning being that a gay man could be blackmailed by foreign agents. Think about that for a moment. The man who had protected Britain's most vital secrets was now considered a risk to them. On June 7, 1954, Alan Turing was found dead in his home. He was 41 years old. On his nightstand was a half-eaten apple. The coroner ruled it suicide by cyanide. Those who knew him said he had loved the story of Snow White as a child, the scene where the poisoned apple ends everything in a single bite. Whether the apple was deliberate symbolism or simple coincidence, no one can say for certain. But it became the image that history chose to remember. For decades, almost nothing was said. The work at Bletchley remained classified until the 1970s. Turing's full story didn't reach wide public awareness until much later still. The man who had invented the theoretical framework for every computer on Earth, who had cracked a code that redirected the course of a world war, died as a convicted criminal, unknown to the millions of people whose lives he had quietly saved. In 2009, the British Prime Minister issued a formal public apology. In 2013, Queen Elizabeth II signed a royal pardon. 59 years after his death, the state officially acknowledged what it had done. Whether a pardon is justice or simply the most polished form of institutional guilt is a question worth sitting with. What we do know is this: every time you unlock a phone, send a message, run a search, or ask a machine a question, you're working inside an architecture that Alan Turing imagined. The father of modern computing, the man who broke the war's most impenetrable code from a basement in the English countryside, died alone and disgraced, and the world kept running on the engine he had built.
If this story meant something to you, hit like and subscribe. There are more stories like this one. You shouldn't miss them. If something here raised a question for you, leave it below. I find that the most interesting problems always begin with someone asking why.